Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Duncan Chappell, and I'm really delighted to be able to introduce the Westcon webinar with our colleague Daniel Urel. As you'll see that today we're talking about trends in cybersecurity. As we mentioned in the invitation for the webinar, we're particularly talking about the way that the attack surface is transforming for organizations. Really delighted to be welcomed. Sorry, I'm really delighted to welcome Daniel Urel here today. Daniel leads the cybersecurity work here at Westcon, and as this time last year, I know is going to give a really fantastic overview of what is happening in the cybersecurity market. This really leverages Westcon's unique position as one of the largest distributors of one of the most comprehensive portfolios of cybersecurity solutions. And I think that range of tools really reflects the range of tools that opponents facing our clients are dealing with. And the increasing complexity of attacks is reflected by the increasing need for a portfolio of solutions to secure the modern enterprise. Daniel, I will hand over to you. Thank you so much for your support today and for your presentations.
Thank you, Duncan, and good afternoon, everyone. Very happy to take the time today to talk to you about the new attack surface. As you know, I saw some familiar names, so it seems that last time it was the topic that we covered. I think it was several quarters ago. Was interesting. So and you're back, so I'm very happy about that. So. Thanks to our customers, the VARs, the SIs, the GSIs, the MSSPs, and of course our vendor partners, Westcon is able to give you a unique perspective of this cybersecurity trend. And today we will address the protection of the attack surface, expanded by the change of the environment with the associated risks. And of course, this change of environment, and we will talk more about this fourth industrial revolution. But first, I would like to introduce myself. So my name is Daniel Urel. I'm the Vice President for Westcon EMEA, in charge of cybersecurity and next generation solution. What it does mean is I'm responsible to suggest a strategy to the board and responsible for the go-to-market. I've been in distribution and technology for 30 years or more, 21 years in Westcon Security through different acquisitions. During those years, I had several roles, and the past 10, I was in charge of the business development for Westcon and also Comstore. So first of all, I would like to make sure that you know what we're doing for a living. What we want first is we want our partner to be successful. And this is what we are doing day in and day out. So we start, of course, with a very good vendor relationship and understand their strategy and align their strategy and the tactics with ours. When we understand everything, or almost everything, we go and talk to the partner and convince the partner, motivate the partner to onboard with the vendor or with the solution or the different technologies. And we have just launched a very unique tool for the partners to test the integration of the different technologies from our vendors, which is the 3D lab. I won't cover that long because it's not the topic, but I would encourage you to go on our website and have a look to this 3D lab. And we provide also the partners with some market insight for them to be able to identify the opportunities. We support them on the pre-sale side, but also on the post-sale side and on the education to make sure that they understand the technology and the solutions. And for that, we launched several weeks ago a tech community where the technical people will talk and will change the best practices and what they found on the solutions and how they could protect better the infrastructure of the end user. And when everything has been chosen, we help our partners to deploy, because in distribution, of course, there is some hardware, but we are talking more into licenses and keys and subscription as a service, which is more into a digital world. But since with the global deployment, we need to take care of this new tax called the WHT, the withholding tax. So we need to give to our partners our skills and competencies to make their life a little bit easier, and for them once again to be successful. So in the very nutshell, this is on the cybersecurity space, the main contributor of the solution, and what we are specifying to the market, and mainly into the four very interesting pillars today, which is the zero trust, and also the IoT, OT security, the cloud security and DevOps, and the emerging threat defense. I think that you all know about that, but if we go to the emerging threat defense, we'll talk more about something that rings a bell for you, which is malware or the ransomware, or in the old-fashioned way, it was virus and worms. So what we want to do is to make sure that we evolve with market needs, and we could provide not only a technology, but we will provide solutions. In some numbers, Westcon into numbers, you could read that, but we are a solid company, $4 billion turnover, 3,400 people. We are dealing with 12,000 partners, and it's still we have 18 logistics and staging facilities to help our customers. Now let's go to the main topic of this webinar, and I would like to talk about the attack surface protection. The attack surface protection, in the past, the vendors and the resellers, what they try to do is to reduce the attack surface to make it easier to protect. But with the change of the different environment, and I would like to talk about, unfortunately, the COVID, where you have a lot of workers working remotely, and with the different devices, sometimes their own device, but sometimes devices that PCs or laptop provided by their company, but also some, as I said, their own device. So from an attack surface very limited to the prem, to the enterprise. Again, unfortunately, with COVID, okay, we needed to work outside of the perimeter, so we needed to protect also, and also the remote workers, and then the attack surface did expand. But it's not just about the COVID; it's also now what I could call the post-COVID. The attack surface did increase again, because you have now these hybrid workers. They are working remotely, but also on-prem. So it's again, we needed to protect the prem, and we need to protect also the remote workers. So the attack surface, as a definition, is everything that is on the edge of the system or at the edge of the infrastructure, where an unauthorized user, okay, or also known as a hacker or as an attacker, could enter data into the infrastructure, into the database, The data could be malware, could be a ransomware, or could extract some data like your medical file, like your credit card numbers, like your bank account details, like everything. And you see that this, the more the attack surface is growing, bigger it is, it's a challenge to secure and to protect. And we will it would be the main topic today on how could we protect that and why this attack surface has developed. And this is not just about the what we talked about, the fourth industrial revolution. It's fourth industrial revolution started in Germany in 2011. But before going into the fourth industrial revolution, also known as Industry 4.0, also known the 4IR, if you are looking into the web. But to prepare this session, I said, okay, we will talk about the fourth industrial revolution. But what was, again, the third one? And maybe the second one? And what was the first industrial revolution? So giving some perspective, the first revolution, industrial revolution, I think it was at the end of the 18th century. So that was back 300 years ago. And it starts with everything powered by the steam and the water. And as I said, it started in Germany. So it started in the UK, sorry. The second industrial revolution, it was more about mass production and the assembly line powered by the electricity, and that was the end of the 19th, and that was in the US and Germany. And the third one was everything around computer and automation, and it comes from the US and Japan at the end of the 20th. So now we are in the fourth industrial revolution. So what does it mean? As I said, it started in 2011 in Germany, and it was an initiative by the German government who asked the factories or the manufacturers to connect between their factory plant to the factory floor to the businesses. Why? Because they wanted to be more productive. They wanted to be more efficient. They wanted to be more profitable, and they would like to have an interconnection real time between what they manufacture and the business. It's all start with the manufacturing, sorry, the manufacturing story in Germany. And then from 2011, it went all over, and it was not just about Germany, it was in Europe, it was in the US. Everything that we needed to connect needed to be connected. And this is why the attack surface exploded for this, during this fourth industrial revolution that we are in today. So what does it mean? It means that if you want to connect, if you want to service, if you want to have some information, if you want to have a solution to a question or an answer to a question that you ask, and for example, you want to watch a movie, you want to know where you are, you want to know, you want to ask for a taxi and so on, you will ask for a service. And those services are capable, you will have the access of these services if you have the data. And the data is stored in different location. And you have, when you ask the request to have this service, let's say that you want to watch a movie, the movie is the data. And you put the request, and you go through a full chain of software who will say, Yeah, who are you? Where are you? What kind of movie do you ask? Are you able to watch this movie? Have you paid your subscription? And so on and so on. And all this information, all this data are stored somewhere. And you need a lot of services, a lot of software and microservices, okay, to make sure that your request and the data will be connected. In this link, you have a lot of software, what we call also the application. You have the virtual warehouse where we store the data, and you have everything connected, what we call the API. And the service that you ask, the movie, for example, will go through what we call an application. But what is an application? An application is a software to do a unique task. And to watch a movie, you have 1,000 of applications, 1,000 services, 1,000 of microservices. And to define the microservices, it would be when you log on Netflix or Uber, they will know who you are, what gender you are, what credit card you are using, what is your subscription, and all these services into the services. So the microservices are stored into a virtual warehouse called the containers. So if I go back to me asking for a service, I want to watch a movie, or I want a car to pick me point A and take me to point B, this request will trigger a lot of services, a lot of software called also application for me to get the car, for me to get the movie. And this is enormous. The number of application which is using by you or the by you of the companies, it's hundreds of applications, thousands of applications for on the business side. So you could imagine the attack surface, because this is what we're talking about, is to protect your data, and the expansion of the attack surface. This attack surface has exploded lately because of the use of the application, because we as consumers, we would like to have access to the services wherever we are, whatever devices that we are using, whatever request that we have, we would like to have that on real time, and we would like to have that on our fingertips. So, because of the proliferation of the application, because of the proliferation of the data, because you need to connect the application, you need to connect the application to the data through what we call the APIs, and the API is the glue between two applications. So this attack surface is no more what we used to have when it was the third industrial revolution. Now it's the connection are everywhere. Everything is connected. People are connected. Machines are connected. If you go back to the example that I gave a few minutes ago into the factory floor, if you want to adjust the manufacturing, and you want to know the temperature of the steel, or you want to know the how much carbon and sulfur it's in the steel, so you need to adjust the temperature of the furnace. You need to add more of this, but real time, to make sure that you don't you improve your productivity, but also you improve your working conditions, and you are also reducing the carbon footprint. everything needs to be connected. Everything needs to be real time. Everything needs to be connected with the data. So the most important information that we need to secure beyond the application, beyond the API, beyond the microservices, beyond the containers and so on, is the data. We need to protect the data. And how are we going to do that? And this is the new world of application. As I told you, there are many applications, even more APIs. So the connectors between two applications that will help you to get the services that you would like, okay? Which again, expand the attack surface. How are we going to protect that? So I like this this old-fashioned slide that will illustrate where we are when it comes to the application protection. So we have everything to protect the full link. First of all, what we need to do is to protect the human. We need to protect you, okay? The device needs to know, or the system needs to know, that it's really you who ask the request. So as you know, you have on your cell phone, you got the fingertip or the face recognition. This is the first identity, and now it's mutual factor authentication. So you have already a protection upfront. Then you go to the several APIs or several applications. We have, of course, on the web, we have this the WAF, and if you want to protect the API, we have the API encryption, or you have the sorry, I didn't explain the WAF. The WAF is the web application firewall. So the web application firewall, so the firewall would be protected when it's the request coming from the web. And you have the API between two applications. So we need to protect the API. And then we have also the data stored in a virtual warehouse, and we need to protect that against the leak, okay, that we call the DLP, data leak protection. So we have a bunch of solutions that could protect this new use or this new consumption of services. So we could not reduce the attack surface because it has increased a lot, but we could put the right protection, the right security at each level of the full channel, the full link, when you want a service or you want an information until the information get back to you. So this slide is a little bit more technical, but you have a complete visibility of what happened now into the infrastructure to come from, as I said, from your request, which is on the web, okay, on the internet. Web is an application of the internet, and then you go into several layers, and we protect together with our vendor partners. We protect each layers by a specific technology, and then all this technology comes to a full solution to make sure that we could protect the best we can your data. So this slide is a little bit simple and will illustrate the application threats. So you'll see that on the upper side of the slide, and the protection that we specify when we code. You certainly heard about the secured by design. So now the DevOps, so the guy in charge of the development of the code, they include the security in the code, so we could have the microservices completely protected. Could you imagine that not a couple of years ago, that was more 10 years ago, if you had some knowledge about how to read a code in in the bar of the web, okay, you could change the price of the product that you could purchase. It was not protected. The guy who made the code to make sure that when you click on buy, it goes to another page and they will take your credit card and so on. When you check out, if you pay attention to the URL, you could change, you could not now, no more, because it's protected, but 10 years ago, okay, you have the opportunity to change the price. Now, because the security is in the code, okay, there is no way that you could change the price of the product that you want to buy. And this is just an example to illustrate the fact that the code is secure. They think about that, okay? So it's no more the DevOps, but it's the DevSecOps. And then we have also solution to deploy the different services, the different applications, the different APIs securely. And of course, now that it's on production, we need also to have the different solution to protect the run in the run phase, how the consumer and how the business will ask for different applications, will ask for different services. If you go to Salesforce, or if you go to LinkedIn, or if you go to other application, it's a service that you request, and the Salesforce and the Netflix and so on, these are the application. I would like that to be clear. I know I repeat myself a little bit, but everybody is talking about application, and it's quite difficult to say, okay, but is Netflix an application? Yes, it is. Is Waze an application? Yes, it is. Is Uber an application? Yes, it is. And so on and so on and so on. So you are using application, and behind the scene, there is a kind of big factory that will help you to get the information and help you to get the services. And there is solution to protect every single steps of this request coming from you to the data. Now, API, application, data, it's a buzzword, okay? Everybody is talking about that. Gartner, a couple months ago, one of your colleagues launched a new terminology called CNAPP, Cloud Native Application Protection Platform. So it's quite new. Some of our vendors came with a new terminology, which is WAP, Web Application and API Protection. So this is today the trendy words. We need to protect the application. So everybody jumped into this opportunity, and everybody said, yeah, we do that also. We will protect the API, we protect the application, we protect the containers, we protect the microservices, therefore we protect the data. So all the focus, okay, is on protecting the application, the API, the containers, and the services. However, they forget that there is an infrastructure. So it's good that we have solutions and people are thinking about protecting the application, the API, and the data. But we have an infrastructure. First of all, the foundation of everything is the IT infrastructure. And if you read the slide, you will see that we talk a lot about the malware, because the malware, ransomware, and so on, they are making the headlines of the newspaper. Now, we don't read newspaper anymore because everything is digital, but they're making the headlines of the news on the web. Malware, ransomware. But there is, as you could see, there is a decline into this malware, ransomware this year. But there is an increase of the DDoS attack. And the DDoS attack is known for years, more than 10 years. And this one is increasing by 9% when the other one is decreasing by 8%. So there is about 20%, 20-point difference between one and the other. And we are focusing on the one that is decreasing when we need to think as a risk manager, okay, where is the big breach? And the big breach today is on the DDoS, getting back to this number. Of course, we need to protect the application APIs and so on. But as the more attacks came from the DDoS, so DDoS means distributed denial of services. To give you an example, it's like a highway, which will be the traffic of the data. So the highway is built for 1,000 cars a day, let's say, okay? And the DDoS attack could be a million of cars a day. So what could we expect us in the car driving from A to B? When there is 1,000, okay, we could go to B. When there is 1,000,000, we're stuck. So we could not get our services. So the DDoS attack, it's exactly the same. The attackers are bombarded the servers with traffic. And so the servers could not cope with the traffic, so it's down. And therefore, the users or the customers or the business can have access to the data, could have access to the services, could have access to the information, and therefore either they switch to another provider, which cause a big impact on the reputation, a big impact on the business, and of course, loss of revenue, loss of business, and everything like that. So, make a long story short, yes, the application is very important. The fourth industrial revolution brings connectivity everywhere for everybody. And this is great. This is good for the cybersecurity business. It will push us to protect the API, the data, the application, the microservices, as I mentioned before. This is good, and we need to do that. But what we need to do also is not forget, okay, about what does exist today, okay, which is to protect the foundation of the IT infrastructure. This is critical. It's the cornerstone of our network. And we could listen to the buzzwords and the new trends and the change of environment, which will ask us to protect more things. I'm not talking about the 5G or the Wi-Fi 6, but this is also a change of environment. We need also to take care of the protection of the existing IT infrastructure. So how could we do that? We need to monitor the network. We need to prevent. We need to be advised by experts. We need to think about solutions instead of thinking only on the technology. And definitely, we need to protect the more important asset of even the consumer, but also on the business side, which is the data. And this, with our channel, we could do that. With our vendor partners, which bring the best of breed technology or the end-to-end solutions, we have everything that the businesses could need to protect both the foundation and the new trend made out of the environment, the change of the environment. And this is the end of my presentation. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than welcome to answer. I would like to thank you for investing time this afternoon, listen to this new trend and the attack surface, and I will listen to the question and try to answer them.
Daniel, thank you so much. We'll hold on for a couple of minutes in case there are questions from the audience. I wanted to start off with a question of my own. You've spoken about this change in the attack surface, and I think you've spoken quite compellingly. I think especially about DDoS. That's something which is something that is clearly as an enduring problem across the market. Are you seeing differences in the conversations between the vendors that you are speaking with on the one hand and the resellers that you are speaking? Are there different kind of timelines, different challenges for these two communities, or do they seem quite well aligned in their understanding of what is changing in the market?
Oh, there is a small delay between the vendors and the resellers. Because the resellers are more in contact with the end user, and the end user will, have some requests on the different solutions or the different challenges, not the solutions. Okay, they have challenges and they have issues, and this is why they go to the resellers and ask for a solution. And then the delay between the vendor and the resellers. The vendors, they have the solution and they need to advise the solution, but it's very difficult for resellers, even cybersecurity resellers, to embrace everything. It depends on the sources, but you have between 9 and 11 layers of security, and within these different layers, you have multiple technologies and multiple vendors. How do you want the resellers to be an expert in everything? Okay, it's very difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's very difficult position. So there is always a request coming from an end user that the reseller is not ready to answer. There is also vendors on their side, which they are very specialized in one solution. Okay, could be XDR, could be SSE, could be ZTA, could be IoT OT security, and there are some other vendors which could be called as an end-to-end solutions, and this creates also the delay between the solution, which could be advised by the reseller to the end user, okay? Because you have this loss in transit expertise between the vendor and the reseller. That answer your question, Duncan?
Yeah, I wonder if I can drill down a little bit more onto the level of specific products. I mean, obviously the portfolio is extremely extensive for Westcon, and on the one hand, I mean, there are some solutions which really describe themselves as being attack surface management solutions, but then of course there are other tools that people would use to manage their attack solution that might not their attack surface that might not describe themselves explicitly as being solutions only for managing the attack surface. What's the portfolio of products that Westcon is doing for this?
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, all the we don't carry a lot of vendor partners. It's in the cybersecurity portfolio. It's about less than 20, and we select these vendor partners to have an end-to-end or a pure player into the technology. Okay, because the more mature get the technology, the reseller or the end user will have some between quotes generic solution. But when there is a new change on the environment, let's take the 5G. Okay, 5G will help the business to have their own private network reliable, and fast. Okay. And therefore, the IoT OT industry will use the 5G, okay, and to transact the data. So when these challenges, like they want to protect the IoT OT, the end user will go for a pure player, because they trust that the pure player will have a better solution than an end-to-end solution vendor. So they will take for the IoT OT, the one that we have in our portfolio is Cloud OT, which required Medicaid for the medical market. They will go more into this direction, even if Palo Alto, which is more an end-to-end solution, or Checkpoint, which is more an end-to-end solution vendor, they have solution also to protect the IoT OT. Okay, but this is not a mature market. So the end user will try to ask the question first to a pure player, and after that, if they have an install base on Checkpoint, or if they have an install base on Palo Alto, then they could redirect to rationalize a little bit the number of vendors that they have to carry in their infrastructure. So coming back to your question about the attack surface protection, there is too many applications, as I just mentioned, Duncan, too many applications sitting in too many places for too many users, or too many to have just one solution who will cover all the API, all the application, all the deployment, all the DDoS, because we don't have to forget about the DDoS. Yes, some like F5, they have this web application API protection, okay? And so they could help you with the deployment, and they could help you with the protection of the API and application. But when it comes to protect the infrastructure with a pure firewall, you could not ask that to F5. You need to ask that to a firewall player, which could be Palo Alto or Checkpoint. And if you go down, okay, if you need to protect the data and the machine, the laptop, the devices with the what we call now the XDR, the extended detection and response, you could not ask that to NetScout, because NetScout and Arbor, they are specialized into monitoring the traffic and the DDoS. So you have an end-to-end for the attack surface. There is too many things to protect, okay? So, and therefore, you need to have a solution for each application. I mean, each use, not each application, each use.
Daniel, thank you so much. These are all the questions that we have today. As always, this webinar is recorded, and I'm sure there'll be analysts watching this recording. So I should just say, if there are people with questions that they asynchronously want to send to us by email, of course, we will work very hard to share those with Daniel and to get responses back to anyone who wants to drill a little bit more deeply on the cybersecurity portfolio and the challenges, the changing challenges that Westcon is helping companies to address. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us again. This is a really fantastic survey of what has been changing and coming to the fore in the conversations that you have. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for asking me.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.